Bonjour à tous, bienvenue dans un nouvel épisode de Robert Spotlight.
Robert Spotlight, Robert Spotlight, Robert Spotlight, Robert Spotlight, Robert Spotlight.
NFT Factory, c'est un projet beaucoup plus large, qui ne se résume pas à l'art.
2 ans que je travaille sur la question de la représentation des artistes femmes.
J'ai travaillé avec des artistes sur la curation, sur le French Touch.
Je suis la cofondatrice de Bonjour et la NFT Factory.
Je suis un artiste / hacker dans le monde des NFT.
Bienvenue dans le show.
Hello everyone, welcome in a new episode of Robert Spotlight and Robert Spotlight Peter. Peter, welcome on the show.
Hello.
Welcome. Thank you to join me today. We are going to talk about your NFT journey, but before doing that, could you introduce yourself for the persons that don't know you?
Well, my name is Piter Pasma, and I'm a generative artist from the Netherlands. I've been doing creative coding almost all my life, and now a couple of years ago, I think 3 or 4 years ago, I started first posting my work publicly to the internet, and I immediately got quite a positive response. And then I got into contact with the generative art community, and I started becoming very active, helping a lot of people with their code and ideas, everything. I've also organized Generative Art Month of January for 2 times now. In 2021 and 2022. The next one is coming up in slightly over a month. And last year, I released a big project called Skulptuur on art blocks. It's an NFT platform, which is it's 1,000 images of computer-generated sculptures rendered in photorealistic environments. And the special thing about it is that I didn't do this with like a 3D modeling program or anything. I did it purely with code, and there are 6,370 characters of code producing all those 1,000 images without using any external resources or libraries. And so in part, the code is also the art, but the outputs are just gorgeous, so they're also the art.
Okay, perfect. So it was a very long introduction. It seems that you have a bit of a big background on the space. So we are going to deep dive on all these introduction. But first, I want to ask you, because you say that you code all your life.
Yeah.
Yes. So how did you start doing that? When could you talk about when you start working with code?
Yeah, well, I was 9 actually, and my mother had brought home a computer from her work, which was an Amstrad Schneider computer, not really a regular one, and it was meant to be a word processor. Like if you started it up, you got to the word processor program immediately. But I figured out these were special disks, you could put them in the other way and it would boot to a kind of DOS terminal. And well, this hugely intrigued me, and I was very careful not to break my mom's computer. And fortunately, my parents let me play with it. I don't think they knew what I was doing. But at some point, I figured out, I had read there was a newspaper for young people. impossible to think about in this day and age. But back then, they made a newspaper specifically oriented at young people, and it had a computer section which was about programming, and it had a simple computer program you could type in. And after a long while of trial and error, I figured out where to put in that program so that it actually worked. And that was 4 lines of code, and they printed out some Dutch text, and I immediately knew the Dutch text wasn't for the computer, so I just put my name there, and it started printing out my name over and over again. And as these old computers do, if you write at the last line of the screen, everything scrolls upwards, and it just keeps on printing on the last line of the screen while all the letters move upwards. And I had this idea. I would, instead of these 4 lines of text, I would print a /forward, a minus sign, a /backward, and a vertical pipe character. And printing these out in rapid succession while they scroll upwards, they would make rotating stars.
You were using 4 characters?
Yeah, well, for printing out on the terminal.
Okay.
Anyway, the point is that I changed this program that would like write a funny text over and over and over again into a program that would display a rotating star, because every time the lines would shift up, and every time the line character would be a bit rotated. And so in a way, when I was 9, I wrote my first creative coding program already, like computer art.
So it's crazy. Do you still have the code of this of that?
I don't think so. No, it can't be, because I didn't figure out how to save my programs until a few months later. I didn't know the command for that. So my first couple of programs, one time I had written this huge program and it had taken me all afternoon, and then dinner came and the computer had to be shut off. So that was lost forever.
Oh, damn. And did anyone on your family, because you start at 9 years old, did anyone on your family was a coder also?
Not really. I think one of my...
Oh, all right. So we just lost Peter. So Peter is going to join. We just have to wait a little bit for him. I don't know what happened. So it seems that an issue on his side. So sorry for that. We are going to wait Peter to join back. Let's go.
Hi. Sorry,
yes.
I'm so
no
sorry.
Problem.
My browser crashed. What was I saying? My uncle, I think one of my uncles did computer programming, but I never talked to him much about it. They didn't understand what I wanted to do with computers, which was much more strange and creative. And I mostly got my information from borrowing every book about computer programming from the library and just seeing if it would work, even if none of the books were about the actual computer that we had, because it was this weird thing that wasn't meant for it. It wasn't I wish I would have had like an Amiga or a Commodore 64, because there were like tens of books about those. But some of the things worked, some of the things didn't, and I just kept on trying. At some point later, when I was a bit older, we got a actual MS-DOS PC, and I started programming in QBasic at first, and Turbo Pascal and assembly code later. Okay. Then, then I got into the demo scene, which is yet another whole chapter of a story.
Okay, so moving forward, so you start at 9 years old. When do you discover the blockchain?
Oh, just a couple of years ago, I think. Well, read about Bitcoin a long time ago. I think I read the Bitcoin white paper because I studied computer science and I just thought it was interesting. And at some point I wanted to buy a Bitcoin, but it was like 150 euros, and I thought it was a bit much, which is ridiculous. But I didn't want to buy half a Bitcoin because I just didn't get it. Back then, this was a long time ago. It wasn't until I entered the generative art community and some people started talking about NFTs and in combination with generative art. And it was in particular one artist called Dimitri Cherniak, good friend of mine who really... Well, it might not be the first one who introduced me to it, but it was when it really clicked for me, when he released ringers on art blocks. It was, I suddenly realized, like, I had been writing these programs always, and they are, a lot of them work like, they say they run in the browser and you can refresh the page every time and it generates a completely new random artwork for you, because that's what computers can do, and it's a lot of fun letting it surprise you in a sense. And a lot of people are, a lot of generative artists were writing programs like that. However, when you show them to people, they will refresh the page for a couple of minutes and get this general impression out of it of, oh, this is a program that sort of generates these kinds of images. And that is a very different experience than the experience that was suddenly created and made possible using NFTs, because every output, like the Ringers program was set up with a smart contract to make only 1,000 official outputs. And each of those outputs is owned by someone and it is theirs. And they will look at that particular output with very different eyes than somebody who's just at a web page refreshing and seeing what this program can do. And that immediately fascinated me, that this is, this gave the opportunity to create a whole new way to experience the genre of generative art in particular. And I think that is also one of the reasons why they found such a good match.
Okay. And so you knew before Dimitri, right?
Mm-hmm.
How did you meet him?
We first started talking via on Instagram, I think, and later on there was a generative artist community called the Generative Artist Club, and it has a Slack channel with where we talked about all sorts of things related to generative art and being an artist and stuff like that.
Okay, perfect. So Dimitri introduced you to through Instagram to art blocks, I would say, if I get it right.
Later on, it was in the Generative Artist Club that he introduced me and a couple of others to it. Yeah.
Okay, and it's when you discover that basically you have a talent creating code, and you can use that talent as an input to create art.
Well, yeah, I knew I had a talent already, and I was already creating art. Okay. I sold them as either plots or prints or just as digital designs. And it was just, of course, it was much harder to do it that way. And it takes a lot more effort to put stuff on the mail and package them properly that they don't get destroyed, which is really hard. And so the ability to make, because before that, I always had the feeling like, even though the art I create is digital, I somehow have to make it physical before it counts as art, you know? And NFTs were more like, it gave me a possibility to like, hey, I don't have to do this. And you can actually see this also in the way that my art developed. Before NFTs, I was working a lot with line art and black and white because I wanted to be able to execute all my pieces on the plotter. That is a robot drawing machine that can draw only lines. And after I was able to release my art as NFTs, I took a whole different path. Well, it was a similar path, but I went into GLSL shaders and realistic 3D rendering because the outputs could be digital, and I didn't need to worry too much about them being able to work properly in a physical environment.
Okay, perfect. I'm going to take one question of Paolo Curtoni. So the question is, I would like Peter to tell his idea on the aesthetics of the code itself, regardless of the graphic result it generates, in particular as regards the size of the code.
That's a great question. People often ask me this. Originally, the thing is, I already said this. The code of Skulptuur is only about 6 kilobytes, and that is pretty tiny, especially for what it does. I recently released a project called Industrial Devolution, which has only 3,930 characters of code, and arguably just as much variation and different types of images come out of it. Very different ones, though. Initially it was the case that the art blocks code, if you release a project, it will be stored on the blockchain, on the Ethereum blockchain, and every character you write onto the blockchain basically costs a small amount of money. So if you write a very big program, it'll cost more. And back in those days, the gas prices were quite a bit higher than they are today. So even though my program was very small, I ended up paying about €1,000 to get it onto the blockchain. But doing that, I actually discovered how much fun it is to size optimize the code, because it is it's a very different mode of operating. Usually you're like programming to make art, and the goal isn't always very clear, or it's not always very clear to get there. And with size optimizing, you have a very clear goal. It has to get smaller, and the goal is even so nice that it has a score attached, like the number of characters, and if it gets lower, you're winning. So it creates this little dopamine loop, and it starts getting really addictive just to pick off characters one by one. And after explaining some techniques to other programmers, other generative artists, I can see that they kind of caught the virus of size optimizing. They start doing it, and now they like doing it as well. It's nice to take your mind off a problem and just look at the code itself as an object. And I could. There are other reasons why I like size optimizing. It's not just because it's fun and addictive, but there's like a certain to write a program that is the smallest to be able to produce a certain output. It represents a very fundamental understanding of the thing that you're trying to generate. It's I have a whole theory about this, but it's maybe kind of technical. But I find that there's a certain beauty in very size optimized code. The fact that it can't be written much smaller, and how small that actually is in fact unknowable. And there's just it fascinates me endlessly.
Okay, so if I get it right, because I'm not a coder, it's like, for a coder perspective, it's the journey of trying to reduce the code as small as possible. It's like as appealing to do, without looking the art generated by the code. Did I get it right?
Yeah. It's also a little bit like, maybe, and I don't know if this helps if you're not a math person either, but you can have like a mathematical proof of something. And usually when they discover something in math at first, the proof is really long. And the mathematicians can work out, okay, this proof is correct and the theorem is correct, but the proof is really long. However, often it happens that after people start understanding the problem, they're able to write much shorter and much more intuitive proofs of the same theorem. Okay. And it's like you can explain things in a complicated way or in a very simple way that makes sense immediately. And in this case, it is explaining things to a computer, basically.
And I will assume that it's a talent to do that, to be able to move from something, a code complicated, to a code that is not simple, but more simple than the complex one.
Yeah. It's very easy. It's not about simple. It's just about code that does the same thing, but it has less characters. It's just written shorter.
Okay, perfect.
It's like leaving out it. Yeah, well, there's all sorts of bits to it, but it starts with leaving out the unnecessary stuff, of course. And it makes the code really hard to read because it's really terse, really compact. And I often don't. I write it usually when I'm working with it. I have it in like an in-between state, that it is medium small, that I can make it really small if I want to, but it is still readable to me.
Okay, perfect. I'm going to showcase Skulptuur. We are going to talk a little bit about Skulptuur, and so it's a 1,000 piece.
Yes.
Everything produced by code.
Correct.
Could you talk a little bit about your process of creating this collection?
Yeah, for sure. So, okay, where should I start? The basic concept is, it has two elements. There's the shape generation, the sculpture generation, and the environment, the background generation. And of course, there's the photorealistic renderer, which is just, it could render anything, or most things. And so the sculptures, they're based like on a sort of combinatorial system that's, how do you say? It's based on the intersections of shapes. And this is very hard to explain without using pictures. But the idea is that if you have a sphere and you have another sphere, you can move them move them through each other. You have in the middle, you have the intersection of these spheres, and they're like a lens shape, Does that make sense?
Yes, that makes sense.
Yeah. And so that already shows that the intersection of two shapes is more complex actually than, because sphere is the simplest thing and lens is already a bit more complex. I started experimenting with this concept using different shapes like donuts in various orientations, intersecting with spheres or cubes or discs. And I would also make this whole thing more complex by, instead of using two shapes, I would take two grids of shapes of different sizes, and they would be intersected with each other. And on top of that, some of the shapes can be hollow.
So it seems that we lost again Piter. The image is frozen. So we are going to wait a little bit on that Piter join us again. But I'm displaying. So basically, Skulptuur, the items are very beautiful in my perspective. I find it very appealing for the aesthetics, and I find it very very impressive that some code can generate this kind of aesthetic. So Piter is going to join us again. We just have to be a little bit patient. Sorry for that. And also, yes, so Camille and Paolo, thank you to be on the audience and watch the live interview. Don't hesitate to ask any question. Thank you first for the support, for being live, and also don't hesitate to ask your question. You know, Paolo, you ask a good question. Piter said himself. So if, you know, I don't know if you already had the opportunity to contact him or to talk with him or to exchange with him. But if it's not the case, take that as an opportunity to, you know, to use me as a medium to talk to Piter. So I believe what it's happening, it's Piter should have an issue with his computer, maybe, or maybe with internet access. So we are going to wait a little bit. That would have been great that some people of the audience would be also present, that I would, for example, to add Camille on the live, and this way I would be able. Yes.
Oh shit! I'm not hearing you.
Oh,
I'm so sorry.
No, no problem. No problem.
I will be right back.
Okay, no problem. So yes, well, as I was saying to you, Camille, so if, for example, I was able to have you on the, you know, on the audience, I will be able to add you on the interview, and we could have, you know, either talk, you know, soft talk about this discussion, or either let you ask directly your question to Piter. So I think that right now it's better. This is right, Piter?
Yeah, I'm so sorry. My entire laptop crashed.
No problem. I did what I need to do to cover this little time. So yes, you were expressing your view about. So I get it that it's difficult to express it.
It's a long story. I think I actually was talking for a few minutes before I discovered the laptop just froze. But there's actually, if people are interested, there is a great episode on the Art Blocks YouTube channel called Art Blocks Behind the Code, where I did about slightly over an hour-long explanation of how everything in Skulptuur sort of works. I didn't even cover everything, but a lot of things. And I have pictures as well to explain how the algorithm makes its shapes, it's a bit hard to explain by waving my hands in the air.
Okay, perfect. So I think that you are talking about this one. This
Yes,
episode?
yes.
Okay, so I'm going to put.
It's. I don't know if this has the link, by the way.
Oh yes, it's right.
It's on their
right.
YouTube.
Yes, it's maybe better to jump on the YouTube channel. Okay. Okay, perfect. You wanted to talk about January.
Oh yeah. So January is the generative art month, and wait, I pasted. This is the link. Put it in the chat for you to the YouTube. And this is the link for January. This is the link from 2021. January is at january.art. January.art is that's the new web page.
Oh, okay.
It's currently in development. Although, yeah, so a little bit about the history of January. We are the Generative Artist Club, and it was October. And as you may know, during October, there's this online event called Inktober, which is for artists, pen artists mostly, that like drawing stuff. And you get 30 or 31 prompts, one for each day of October. And they, well, they're a lot of fun if you like drawing, but these were people writing creative code, and we're thinking, I'm not entirely sure if how to write creative code using these prompts, because they were meant for drawing. And then I got the idea, like, how about we make our own month, and we call it January, because generative art, and it can be in January, and that still gave us 3 months to organize everything. And so I put together the first website, and I brainstormed a bunch of prompts together with the great people from Generative Artist Club. I had a lot of help, and broadcasted the idea over social media, and everybody loved it, or at least all the creative coders loved it. The next year, I pretty much did the same thing again, and I think that year Daniel Schiffman also joined, which is awesome, because he's a bit famous in the creative coding scene. He has this YouTube channel called Coding Train, and a lot of people learned so much from him. And it was even more people than the year before. And it's probably going to be great this year. I already have a whole long list of suggestions for prompts, and there's some really cool ones. I just have to make a selection together with a bunch of people to figure out the coolest ones. Okay. So yeah, the idea is that every day there is a coding prompt. Maybe it's better to go to this website of 2022, okay, because the prompts that are on this webpage aren't done yet. There's a page with prompts. If you can click on that, just the word prompts in the title, just a bit down.
Yeah. Okay. This one?
Oh, yeah. Okay, for sure. That works. And these are like prompts oriented at creative coding. Like if you are a pen and ink drawing person, you're not going to draw 10,000 of something. Although I think some people tried, like drawing 10,000 lines. And I'm not sure if they succeeded, but they regretted it, that's for sure. So we have prompts that are a bit more oriented at things that could be inspiring to creative coders instead of literal stuff to draw.
Okay.
And that's what January is, and I'm really looking forward to it. I have to get working and make finish the prompt list, and the website can really go public.
Okay. So all the people involved on this project should have a bit of code background, right?
Sorry, they should have a bit of what?
Of being able to code. Or did it someone, a beginner? Did a beginner can join January?
Depends. If you want to learn to code, then I think you can try. But I think it will be hard to do like one prompt per day, which is already very hard for even a skilled programmer. It's pretty much a marathon, and I'm gonna give it a serious try, but I have to really clear my schedule to be able to do it. And definitely, if you want to just get started with creative coding, I can really recommend watching the Coding Train YouTube channel, and from there get access to some other resources and maybe try a couple of prompts that inspire you and make you want to try it out. Because there's not really a rule that says you have to do that prompt on the day of 7 January. I mean, it's fun if you do, because everybody will be posting about it. But if you just want to get started and give it a try, there's no rules.
Okay, perfect. And so if I get it right, it's like January, it's a marathon over one month. And it's like a challenge for anyone that love coders, and basically for coders, to be able to achieve a daily challenge over 31 days. Is that?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
and
exactly
so, who makes the selection of the challenge, basically the prompt?
Mostly me and my friends at the Generative Artist Club. I get after the first year it was a bit of a challenge to get enough prompts. We ended up with about a list of about 60 prompts or something, and I together with everyone else, we had a vote and selected the 31 most popular ones. For the second year, we kind of did the same thing, except that the Generative Artist Club had grown, and there were a lot more suggestions for prompts. So I think we had about 200 or so. But then we had another vote and got the 31 best ones. And also I'm making sure that the one for January 1st is a relatively easy one. So it's easy to get into. Not one that makes you go, what's this kind of weird thing? But one that looks, I want to draw 10,000 of something. That sounds cool. This year we have about 400 prompts in the suggestion list, and I'm actually having a friend of mine help write a little website so people can just click and vote for them, because counting them manually is going to be a lot of work otherwise. But me and everyone from the Generative Artist Club who wants to help are doing it, but I'm sort of spearheading the project.
Okay, I get it. And did there is so I imagine that for you it's kind of fun. You enjoy doing that. And did there is some prompt that caught your eyes? Like, oh, I never thought about that.
Oh, wow, that's a good question. I have to quickly cheat and browse through the prompts.
Okay.
Otherwise, let's see, 10,000 of something. I was surprised how much people liked the thing that I made. I don't know. Maybe it's on the other, probably from the first year. One thing that did really surprise me was especially the first year, because the second year I was so busy with stuff. I had so much other things going on, but I really saw that all the people that participated and finished or nearly finished the challenge, they all like leveled up in skill, and that was really cool to see, because it's really like it's a way to practice a skill that is actually like really hard to practice, because what is creative coding, but you're really training like a creative coding muscle if you're doing this for a month.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so it's like the fun surprise of viewing people with a skill set before and having a completely different skill set after doing the January.
Yeah, well, not completely different, but
but improve, I mean.
It seems to inspire everybody. And yeah, well, there's definitely some stuff that I made that came out that was really nice. Maybe it's the thing is that I don't think the prompt surprised me personally, because I had been making the website and selecting the prompts, and I have already seen them all like 20 times. But it's always surprising how other people interpret certain prompts, like differently than you expect, which is cool. And let's see, there's it's just it's hard to say. Well, there is actually one that surprised me. That is the first year on January 5th. This was before I did Skulptuur. There was already the prompt was do some code golf. And code golf is another word for writing size optimized code. How little code can you write to make something interesting? That was the prompt. And I already then, I didn't come up with that prompt, by the way. Somebody else did. And I wrote a program of 809 characters, I think, that I can, it's on my website. I will, that's the link for the program. It's of course quite simple, but the cool thing is that the shapes that it generates, people can actually download them and run them on the plotter. I'm not sure if you're able to show them on the screen, or
did you? Oh yes, sorry. Ooh.
Yeah. So, and if you refresh, you get new ones, and it generates a selection of 12 I call them epi hyper derp fladioids, because they have this whole selection of very complicated mathematical names, and I just mashed them together and made it sound ridiculous. But and it's only 809 characters. If you press Command U on your laptop, it'll show the code.
Command U?
I think. I'm not entirely sure. Or right-click and view source. Oh, well, or maybe it doesn't work. But can you right-click and view source on this, or is it just maybe it doesn't show?
Oh, yes. Okay, I know what it's happening.
Well, if it doesn't work, it's just
it's okay,
809 characters. Oh, okay. Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, where's the source here? It's called. Yeah, that's it. But you have to wrap the lines. That's yeah. It's just one. It's on one long line, but well.
Okay.
Anyway.
It's this one. It's the first one.
Yeah. It's just the first line. The rest is just a copyright statement. And maybe there's a word wrap option, but yeah. So that's the code. I also one time I wrote a piece of code that you actually it fit inside the tweet, and you could actually copy the tweet into your browser, and it would run the code and generate an image. But I'm not sure if I can find that tweet quickly enough.
Wow. So it's one line that generated the 12.
Yes. And there's an infinite amount of possibilities that can come out if you refresh. There are a little bit. Do you know spirograph?
No.
It is like it is a sort of like children's toy, and it is made of. You have these gears, and they are interlocking, and you put the pen inside a gear, and then you trace a curved line with the gears. And those shapes are mathematically very similar to spirograph is they're very similar mathematically to hey, that's an interesting one. Well, anyway,
which one was which one?
I think the third one on the top.
This one?
That one, yeah. That doesn't look like a spirograph at all. Actually, can you click on that? This literally looks like the output of my tweet. That's very interesting. Huh. Well, that's now I have to find it and show you. Where is it? I have to paste it here. Tweet is yeah. Oh. And then I go to the StreamYard. Yeah, I put another link in the chat. So
oh, okay.
Yeah, if you like, you can yeah, these are just the output images, but you can actually copy the code from the tweet and put it in an empty tab. So yeah, that part. And press enter. There you go. Your computer just learned to do something new. And if you refresh, you get a random new one.
Yeah, I understood. It's crazy. Wow. Okay. It's crazy.
Yeah,
basically the code that you are using here, it's the same.
No, it's a different,
not the
different
same,
code. It was just that picture in the spirograph images reminded me of those shapes,
Okay.
but it's a different formula. It's yeah, well, it's this one is a little bit like spirograph. I don't know how to say it in English. And the other one, the one that's in the tweet, it's a type of fractal pattern that it's not really a particular famous formula or something. It's just the formula that I could fit inside a tweet that I thought would do something interesting. That is sort of what it is.
Wow. I didn't use that my browser can generate this kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's what I like about this art piece. I think I didn't sell it or made an NFT of it or anything, but I really like that it allows like people to experience a little bit of the magic of code. Like, hey, now my browser can do this and it couldn't do it before. You know, that's just by putting in these characters. And yeah, of course, it's also size optimized, that it's not really a good starting point to learn from if you want to get into it. But it gives a bit of a taste of the magic, and I really like that.
Okay. And if someone reads the code, did this person without having there is on this part there is a comment section where your name is here, but let's say someone reads that, did this person can say, oh, this tie it's Peter?
This well, they have to know I made this. I mean, you can't really see that I did this. I think it is too simple for that.
That it's simple for you?
Well, it has to be. It has to be like, it can't do a lot of like details. And I would have, like, personally, if I would have made this into if I had more space, I could have made it look nicer and it would have more elements of my own style in it. But now it is more like the thing I could do in this amount of space. And it's, as for instance, like the black and white pixels, there could be colors and all sorts of stuff. But it's hard to say that to recognize the image is a Piter Pasma, if that's what you meant, right?
No, in fact, what I tried to say, it's it's like the same way that someone looking out of a piece of art can say, oh, this style, it's this artist. I was trying to ask you the question if a coder watching this piece of code could say, oh, it's a Peter style.
Oh, the code.
I get.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
I think so. Or at least they would guess it is me or some other person that is really good at writing size optimized code.
Okay.
But there's, I don't know if it really has my fingerprint in it, but I think a lot of people would guess my name.
Okay, I get it. So on the space, are you known for code size optimization?
Yes, yes. I think that's also why Paolo asked the question earlier. I know him from the generative art scene. Yeah, it's like I said, first it was a necessity when I made Skulptuur, and then I just did it for fun because I was like, I had this idea in my mind, and I was, for instance, after Skulptuur, I created another project on FX Hash called Hyper Giraffe, and there you can Google that if you like. But the it and on FX Hash you don't actually have to pay for your characters. They get stored in a different way, and but I had written after Skulptuur, I had just keeping on writing small code, and I had written this powerful spatial structure called a quad tree. It's a coding thing. But I managed to do it in only, I don't know, 200 bytes or so. And then I was thinking like, oh, what can I do with this? Well, I can write a very tiny doodling program, and that is this one, the Hyper Giraffe. So it wasn't really a necessity to make this program as small as it was. I think it is also slightly about 4,000 bytes or so. And but I was just having fun with it, and I had been writing tiny code, and everything came together at some point, and it became Hyper Giraffe. There's another funny part about this particular piece is if you click one, you will see below the image they have features. A little bit down, and mostly they're like numbers that tell something about the image, but I also wrote a generative title generator into the program. So every Hyper Giraffe has a unique title, and in this case it is "The Black Crypto Squirrel and the Little Orange Squirrel Search for a Magical Dragon Dungeon." And the two colors are based on the color in the piece, and the rest of the story is generated randomly.
Wow! So I assume that it's a kind of element that people collecting gen art love. The fact that there is a double coding element.
I think they love it, but it's also, I love it because there is this, it's actually a funny thing that this idea of the features, this is true. Crypto collectors love those features. And it is in fact the case that no generative artist was really doing much with features in that sense before NFTs came around. Because it was more fun to hide them, actually, in my opinion. And so when NFTs came along, features were also a thing. It kind of felt like an additional burden put on top of me. Like, oh, now I have to figure out these things. And with FX Hash, it was actually, I wanted to do this for Skulptuur because I just wanted to have some fun with the features, but I couldn't figure out how to make interesting generative titles for Skulptuur because I wanted them to be somewhat serious. And these stories are a little bit more silly or what you call it, magical realism kind of style. And I couldn't figure that out for Skulptuur, so I did it for Hyper Giraffe. But it's, I think it's fun, and I think people love it too.
Yes, it makes sense for me, knowing that the fact that you introduced me to all these kind of nuances on your work. It's me. I say that yes, it's resonate for a collector standpoint. What on the marketplace, on the market right now? on the generative art market. Did there is anything that you find interesting in for innovation standpoint or trying to push the boundaries? Did there is anything that caught your eyes recently?
Well, it's not so much that I look at the market, because I'm not really a collector of these things. I sometimes collect artworks of my friends, but otherwise I just don't really have time for it to if I want to do it, I want to do it right and make a nice collection, and I don't have time for that.
Okay.
But I do try to keep track of what, of course, my fellow artists are doing. And yeah, there's some really cool stuff coming up. There's, let's see, what's there? I really am always impressed by Melissa Wiederrecht's artworks. She's doing stuff with noise and shapes and colors that it just I love it also because I know that what she's doing is also technically advanced, and I love the attention to detail that is put into there.
Could you send me the name, please, on the chat?
Yeah, I will.
Melissa?
I will try to. Oh, I don't know where she is, but I'll write the name here. Wiederrecht. Oh, it is M. Wiederrecht. That's it. Yeah. Now I know this. And I guess you just have to click on the media.
Yes.
Thing I just got. And
And did you know Melissa personally?
Again, she's in the Generative Artist Club Slack, where we talk a lot. But before that started, I think, I'm not actually sure, but I think we talked on Instagram as well a few times. But that was really when I was just getting onto Instagram, and I don't really. That's a long time ago, and but I think I remember her name from those days as well.
Okay. In fact, I'm asking you the question to know if it's possible to make the introduction to Melissa about my podcast, to have her on my show, because my team tried to reach out to her, but so far we didn't have any reply. So it's why I was asking you this question. Did you know Melissa?
I can try.
Perfect.
Yeah, I will try. And there's also, another person called Monotau who's been working on some just amazing stuff. Let me find this. Monotau, where did he go? He's been working for way too long on this project, but it has like semi-realistic cloud rendering in it, and I just think that's so impressive.
And how long Monoto is working on that project? Do you know?
Well, at least a couple of months now. Yeah, I mean, I can understand that, but I can understand that it takes long. But I know he's good, and yeah, It's really beautiful. I think the clouds are just. He finally explained to me how they work, and it's a really brilliant idea.
Okay. And did there is anything that you would like? You have an idea about something that you have never tried already?
Sorry, what do you mean?
In fact, first my question was about did there is anything or anyone doing something that you find interesting?
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm asking you, did you personally, Peter, do you have any like ideas that you have only on your head right now so far that you wasn't able to test it so far?
Well, I've been super busy. Usually, so it's not on the top of my head right now, but I have this thing I call an idea list, which I keep. And it is like a to-do list, except there's no pressure. I just have an idea, I write it down, and it is forever when I feel myself without inspiration or in between projects and I don't know what I'm going to start on or things to explore. And sometimes I start it's a text file, so I can just add stuff to the ideas if I get more ideas about the ideas. And that's a bit how I develop, keep my inspiration going. And it's like I said, I've been very busy, so I've been a lot of not a lot of time for new ideas. But since last week, I had some more time, and I'm working on something kind of new right now. It is still based on my ray hatching engine. That's another project that I haven't really talked about, but it is a way that I developed to render 3D scenes in a way that is a plotter. So the machine that can draw only lines can draw it on a paper. So it is like a hatching, shading kind of thing. And I recently did a release with that engine called Industrial Devolution. And I've now been playing around. What else can I do with this program? Because the technique is really versatile. And since a couple of days, I've put it back to making two-dimensional pictures. And now it's oh yeah, there's a that's a laser cut metal cards that I got in the mail from Sean Kemp. And output is indeed my my ray hatching program.
Okay.
And yeah.
Right. Do you go to some event, real life event?
I do when I can. It's I have to mind my energy levels a little bit because of some mental problems, but otherwise, I've gone to what was it? There was a. And there's also been issues that I was supposed to go to Valencia, but there was such a chaos at the airports in Europe that the flight got cancelled. But there was this show called NFT Europe, and also
Yes.
a couple of weeks ago there was I was supposed to be a speaker there as well. So it was very sad, but it was just it was impossible to get there in that weekend. And I went to Los Angeles a couple of weeks ago, where I did the release of Industrial Devolution with Bright Moments Gallery, and that was a really cool event. And it was a sort of combination with Bright Moments, FX Hash, and Tender, who are like a curation platform on the Tezos blockchain, I think, or maybe not just the Tezos blockchain. Well, and they put together this whole show, and it was really amazing because my art piece, Industrial Devolution, was a little bit like the headline of that show. So that was really cool.
White Moment, it's not the real life event when you can do a live minting?
That's live minting, yeah.
Okay.
That was why I was there in Los Angeles to be at the live minting event of my artwork.
Perfect. And it's not the same White Moment. It's not the same that done something with Snowfall at Mexico.
Oh yes, that's the same.
Okay, perfect. It's great. Okay.
That's yeah. I met them in Venice and also earlier in London with the Proof of People event, which was at the same time as their Bright Moments London Crypto Londoner event or something like that. Well, they had several art shows in those weeks in London.
Perfect. So I think it's time to wrap it up a little bit. It's more than 1 hour now. I'm going to ask you just 2 more questions. The first one, it's do you rely on did sometime you are looking to optimize the code and you are stuck, and do you ask help to someone, and if yes, who are this person?
That's a good question. Well, they usually come to me, but
I know.
Otherwise, I like putting out my question to the group of people at the Generative Artist Club, and there are some people that I would go to for like more specific NFT related stuff, like crypto things. That I'm a creative coder, and I've just learned all this crypto stuff in the last 2 years or so. But I don't know who specifically I would go to. There's I would just put it out to the group, I think, if I have a question, and they help me sometimes with like figuring out ways to trace hard to find bugs. That's one of the great helps they've been.
Okay, perfect. And okay, so if you had to start from scratch on an NFT perspective, would you do something different than when you started with them?
That's a good question. I would have probably liked to have made more NFTs when I started. I didn't, or in general, I find I make more cool outputs than NFTs, and I'm actually thinking about like making a selection of like my not the series, but like one of one works that I made in the last couple of months that are just sitting on my hard disk, and I haven't gotten around to making NFTs of them yet. So that's something I would change. If it would be possible to go back in time, I would have sold crypto at different times than I would have. But otherwise, I'm quite happy with. I started out at Hikatnung on the Tezos blockchain. And after that, I did a pretty successful art blocks project and really had, I think that was luck. I mean, it's an awesome project, but I also had the luck that the hype for art blocks was really high at the moment when I released. So that really helped, at least helped me. And and after that, FX Hash came around. It didn't exist in the beginning, and it's been a great platform to release on as well. And given the amount of time and energy I have, I don't think I would have done anything different. I would have liked to do more, but there's only so much you can do.
Okay, perfect. Makes sense. Piter, thank you very much for your time. I want to give a little shout out to Paolo Chiortoni and also Cameru. They were both on the audience watching your interview. So thank you very much. I learned a bunch of things. The kind of putting a code directly on the browser, it was like a moment for me.
Yeah.
So thank you for that and for everything that you share with me today.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you so much for interviewing me. I had a really great time.
Thank you very much. I wish you a great end of your day. Where are you located?
I'm in the Netherlands, so we're in the same time zone. You're in Paris, right? Or
yeah,
France?
No, not Paris, but France. So
yeah.
Okay, perfect. Right. So so at least I'm going to follow you on Twitter now and kind of watching what you are up to.
Cool. Awesome.
Thank you. Bye, Piter.
Hey, see you.